You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGackie, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers!
Hello. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for all the downloads. I really appreciate it. I don't have too much to get into before we hop into this wonderful, fantastic episode, but I figured I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a couple ways you can help support the show by doing things you're probably going to be doing anyway. So if you go to tonemob.com/sweetwater, tonemob.com/sweetwater, for any of your new gear purchases, a decent percentage of that comes back and helps grease the wheels of this weird machine over here. So tonemob.com/sweetwater is the place to go for that, and you'll receive that customer service that we all know and love. Another place you can go is tonemob.com/reverb. And Reverb is the place to go for your used gear, the more off the beaten path stuff, the smaller builders. You know what Reverb is by now. Anything you do through the tonemob.com/reverb link is going to help out. I really appreciate it. And if somehow this is the first time you're hearing about Reverb and you don't know anything about it, if you go to tonemob.com/reverb and just sign up, simply signing up for a new account through that link helps out quite a bit, and it doesn't cost you anything at all. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into this episode with Mr. James Bowman. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have James Bowman from Against Me and, well, a bunch of stuff. So let's get into it. What's going on, man?
Not much. I was on my way to go to the post office and then, had a phone debacle getting connected to you. And then that's it. Here we are.
That's it?
Yeah.
that's been the bulk of the day.
Yeah. There's not a lot really to do anymore. You just stay home and, try not to die. Or kill people and inadvertently kill people. So yeah, that's pretty much it. We have the homeschool thing going on. So little bit of third grade math happened earlier, for my son, not for myself, even though, I'm sure I could have used the refresher as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's been the last 7 months is just, kind of hanging out at home, making sure everyone's safe and, trying not to go crazy.
Yeah, that sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
I think we can pretty much all relate to these things.
Yeah, super relatable.
Totally. Yeah, we're doing the homeschool thing too, but fortunately, my oldest is just in kindergarten, so it's not, it's not all that intense.
Yes.
If I was having to do the third grade math, we might have some issues because I don't even know if I could do the third grade math at this point.
It makes you feel real dumb now because they changed the way they teach math. I don't know how old you are. Having a kindergartner, I assume we're near the same age. Like I'm 40. But when I was taught math, that wasn't like the Common Core method. So now when I have to go back and do the math on the third grade level with my son, I am having to relearn it. Like I don't understand the Common Core method. So yeah, it's a little embarrassing.
Is that universal now? So I've seen the memes about it, but I literally know nothing like you. I don't know anything about it.
I assume it is. I don't know. That's all. It was all news to me. Like as soon as math homework started coming home and I was like, wait, what? That's not the way you do this. So it was a little bit of a learning curve for all parties involved.
I had a hard enough time the first time. If I have to learn it again.
You're gonna
Math
have
was
to.
never my thing.
You
Oh
should,
no, this is not good.
Yeah, you should find like, some way to get some workbooks and familiarize yourself so you're ahead of schedule here, because it is and I'm not embarrassed to say it is difficult. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it.
As much as I'm sure you're correct about that, I will definitely procrastinate until I absolutely have to. That's just I can tell you that's just what's going to happen. It's just going to be the way. But, man, well, let's get into what we normally start these things off with.
Okay.
Like, I know a little bit of your story, but I also know there's more to the story that I don't know. So let's start from day one. When did you start playing music, and now you're making pedals? Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah, I started playing guitar. I got a guitar for my 10th birthday, I think, but I didn't really pick it up until I was 15. Just kind of taught myself by listening, playing along to records, that sort of thing. Played in some local bands in the South Florida area, and then met my bandmate Laura the first day of high school in Naples, Florida, and our bass player at the time, Dustin, at Naples High School. And we were all fast friends. And then fast forward a few years later, Laura started against me. A few years after that, she was going on tour, and I offered to buy all the guitar strings if I could go on tour. And I did just that, and that's it. And
Nice.
Yeah, I ended up, bringing my guitar along and learning the songs along the way, and that was pretty much it. And that's kind of my history of joining Against Me. That's been 22 years now, I guess, 23 years.
Wow.
Pretty crazy. And then the pedal stuff just I kind of tinkered around a bit, back and forth when I had time, and then sitting at home during these quarantines, lockdown and stuff. Just kind of pulled the box out of the closet and was like, okay, let's start messing with this again. And then a lot of trial and error, and melted a lot of things and burned myself a lot, and finally made a couple things where I was like, oh, maybe these are cool, and sent a few to friends, and then just kind of kept going, and now I guess I'm making pedals.
Has that been primarily a 2020 thing? That's when I became aware of it. This year.
Just it literally started in March. Once I got home, it took a couple weeks to process what was happening, the scope of everything, and then it was kind of panic set in, and then I guess coping mechanism was I have to do something. I was I don't know what's happening. And then, you start frantically cleaning when you're not doing anything. And well, at least I do. I'm oh, well, this is dirty, I'll clean this up. And then I stumbled upon the box of just parts and stuff. And it just kind of has been my nightly routine is go through the day doing the family thing, and then get my son to bed, and then I'll just go in our spare bedroom where I have a little workshop set up, and just start building stuff.
I want to go back a little bit to some of the earlier Against Me stuff, because I'm old enough that I remember when I started first seeing you guys in alternative press and all that stuff, and I just remember this vague. It probably was very, very real for you guys, but I remember seeing this controversy around becoming an electric band and how you weren't a real punk band anymore. Is that a thing that I can't remember exactly how that worked.
Yeah, there was we caught a lot of the sellout, lash out that was happening during those times. And the band started as just Laura with an acoustic guitar, and our drummer, and I use the term drummer loosely, Kevin, just banging on buckets. And then it just kind of progressed from there. But that's, I guess that's the progression of any band, really. Like
Right.
you start to play songs, and then there's more accompaniment to it, and then like the next thing you know, you have a band, and then if I'm playing electric guitar and someone's playing an electric bass, and then you have someone playing in a basement with an acoustic guitar, you're not going to hear it. So you have to amplify that guitar, and then the acoustic guitar turns into a Telecaster and an amp, and then then it just kind of morphs from there. And I don't know about you, but I think it's more fun to play electric guitar.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Considering I own one acoustic that's not all that great, but it's my first guitar, so I'm never getting rid of it. And then my quote unquote acoustic, like my nice acoustic, is a resonator with a pickup in it. So you're
like walking a very fine line there. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always like grabbing this big metal guitar, and people are like, what is that? I'm like, it's my acoustic. They're like, okay, sure.
It looks like a hubcap, but it has strings on it. It's fine.
It's fine. And a P90 in the neck position, just in case.
Just in case.
Which sounds awesome, but it is completely uncontrollable. Like you have, I posted a video like 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, where I'm sitting outside on my little porch thing, playing it plugged in because it sounds incredible plugged in. But I had to run the cord under the door to the mic and then record the amp there and have the guitar outside, because it's just, I haven't quite figured out how to make that doable yet, but it sounds really cool.
Awesome. I do not have a resonator guitar. I have pretty much everything else, but
this one was a present that it's one of the good. You might have seen. We had a bunch of fires here recently, and it's one that I threw in the truck. We didn't end up having to evacuate, but that we were told to get ready to evacuate. So I had my truck all loaded, and I was like, well, I can't take everything. So I took my grandpa's Les Paul Jr. and this resonator, because it was a gift from Brian Fallon, and I'm a big fan of his, and we're buddies now, and he sent that to me. So I was like, this has got to come with me too. So
right on.
Anyway, yeah, it's a special one.
Yeah,
I don't know where I'm going with all this. I'm getting off track.
It's okay. We got nothing but time.
That's true. That's true. Where am I going? I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to be sitting here all day. So what did the progression of your rig look like from those early days?
Yeah, so I was playing in a band, like a spiky hair, like punk rock band in St. Petersburg, Florida, called the Scams. So when I stopped doing that, I had, like this typical like Marshall half stack sort of thing. And then that first Against Me tour that I did was in a like 70s Buick LeSabre with the back seat taken out, and space was at a premium. So I used like a Marshall 112 cabinet, and I had like a Fender solid state head, and just ran the clean channel. I think it was a Rock Pro 1000 model. And just used the clean channel on that. And then I had a Marshall Shredmaster pedal, and that was the distortion sound. And played that. And I had like an old beat up Les Paul Studio that I still have somewhere.
Oh, you still have it?
I still have it. Yes.
Do you remember do you remember what the pickups were in that thing?
Just whatever the standard pickups were, like the 498 or whatever they are, TNR, whatever the Gibson standard treble and rhythm pickups are. But yeah, I do have that actually. I played it a couple years ago at the fest here in Gainesville. We did like a playthrough of the Reinventing Axl Rose, like start to finish, and I played that guitar for it.
Very cool. Very cool.
It's pretty fun. But yeah, I still have that cabinet too. Actually, I don't have the head anymore. I gave that to a friend a while back. I still have 3/4 of that rig. I have the guitar, I have the cabinet, and I still have that pedal.
That's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I think that cabinet, the last time I looked in the back of it, because it's like like 3/4 back cab or whatever. I think it has an old set list in it from when we used to play like 10 song sets or 8 song sets even. So that might have even been from the last tour that I used that on. But yeah, a little nostalgic nugget there.
That's so cool. You should post a pic of that. I want to see that. That sounds awesome.
I will.
So then what was next? What did you graduate to from there?
From there, Laura and I went like on a little gear hunt around Florida. We had like a really fantastic music store here in Gainesville for a while. That was called Sims Music and Sound. And there's this guy, Jeff Sims, and then the former drummer of the Heartbreakers. And they had that store there, and every once in a while you'd go in and they would have opened up one of the old Heartbreaker vaults and like pulled some guitars and amps out of it, and they would sell them.
Ooh.
So we ended up getting a few things there. Like Laura got an old like blonde Bassman head. She has like a 60s Jag that belonged to Tom Petty.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But these were bought like, in the early 2000s there. And I have an old, like a Les Paul Jr. that we got from there. But anyway, that stuff came a little down the road. My next kind of setup was we went down to St. Pete. There was a music store there. And I was looking for like an old Marshall head, and I found a 76 50-watt JMP, which I bought for $400.
Whoa.
And yeah, I was pretty stoked. That was in like either 99 or 2000. Yeah, it like walked in the front door. It was sitting there like on top of a cabinet, and I was like, I want the head. And they're like, well, it comes with the cabinet. And I was like, I can't use the cabinet. And they're like, well, it's $900 for everything. I was like, I just want the head, and then somehow walked out of there with it for $400. And then Chuck Reagan from Hot Water Music gave me one of his old Marshall 412s, and that's why I didn't need a cabinet. So had that for a little while and toured with that for a bit. And then that old Marshall cabinet, like the handles were gone, so it had like plywood pieced all over it, and ended up getting an old like 70s orange 412 cab from this place called Mike's Music in Cincinnati. And used that for a long time. And then, it just kept, I don't know, man. I just kept like adding on and adding on. So it's like, okay, like one amp and cab isn't enough, so let's get another one. And then
absolutely.
Yeah. And then we'll run them both together, and then we'll have this giant pedal board. And that's just kind of where it started to all, I don't know if you say downhill or uphill, because I think it's pretty awesome, but then, it's kind of downhill because it never stops. And then we did a tour with the Blood Brothers back in the early 2000s, and the guitar player Cody had like an orange OR 140 half stack that he was selling, so I bought that, and then that came part of the live rig in tandem with the other orange cab and the JMP, and that was it for a long time. And then,
I mean, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, it was really loud.
I love it.
Really, really loud. And then the JMP started to get some like bumps and bruises and needed repairs. And then I was like, man, I really want to hang on to this for forever. So I'm going to stop taking it on the road. And then I think I ended up with an 800 for a while. The 140 ended up blowing a power transformer, and I replaced it with an 8030, which was a little more reasonable volume wise. So still in the kind of like same realm of that for a long time. And then, switched to like a Silver Jubilee for a while. I don't know. There was, after we did New Wave, I bought a Bogner half stack, like a Shiva half stack, and I still use that Shiva, which I think is one of the greatest amps ever.
Going back
sorry.
a step.
Yeah,
the
sorry,
Silver
on a tangent here.
Silver Jubilee. No, I like it. I like it. Tangents are what podcasts are for. The Silver Jubilee. I see those and I hear them brought up a lot, but I don't remember what's different about them. There's something, but I don't remember what it is.
It has like a lead, like a different gain structured like lead channel to it. So you can have like a typical like, overdriven Marshall like 800 sound, and then there's like this lead channel that has like a different voicing to it that just gives you like a little more gain.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's basically like a hot rodded, modded 800, I guess you would say.
I like that.
Yeah. Cool. And I mean, yeah, they sound pretty great. I've had a few of them over the years, like vintage ones and the newer reissue one, and I think they all sound pretty great. With any Marshall, you have to set the EQ wildly different from amp to amp.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like completely bonkers, but it makes sense when you get in the realm of like electronics building. You realize that just because a component says it's that value doesn't mean it is. And I really doubt that when they're going through mass producing these things that they were checking the values of all of the components involved. So but yeah, so yes.
The Bogner. There we go. Sorry, I interrupted your train of thought. There we go.
And then the Marshall got replaced with a Bogner half stack. And I used that for a long time. And then the Bogner and the Orange stayed for a really long time. But at one point, I ended up with a diesel VH4 that I was using like the second channel on because I thought it sounded really good. And then everything switched from Orange cabinets to Marshall Jubilee cabinets. And then like a Jubilee head, and I guess the Bogner would have still been in there for a while. And then the most recent kind of setup would be switched to the old like 70s Marshall 810 cabs. So I was using two of those, and then a couple years ago we did a tour with Green Day, and Billy Joe gave me one of his Dookie modded super leads.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty rad.
Whoa, dude.
So I started using that and a Fender Tone Master as like the main sounds. And then, yeah, what is there now? Man, I haven't seen my stuff in so long. I'm like...
Is it in storage or something?
Yeah, it's in storage in Chicago.
Oh, you're doing amazingly well. People ask me, if they were to ask me the same question, I'd be like, let me turn around and look, because I forgot what it is. I would not be able to pull all that out of memory. I'm very impressed.
Well, most of that stuff that I don't use anymore is like in storage here in Florida with me. And then like the touring rig stuff is like, we were in the middle of like, just started a tour when like the lockdown started. We had just finished sound check and then got off the stage, booking agent calls and says, hey, everything's closing down. And then the next day we all flew home, and I haven't seen my stuff since, It all went back to Chicago. I
remember that time. It was strange.
Yeah. Super
it was the last show I went to was, Dave Haas was here on his tour, and I interviewed him, and it was really fun. We had a great time, and then that was the last show. Yeah. I think that was in February or March. I can't remember exactly when that was, but it's a very vivid memory because of I think everyone can relate to this, but on both sides of the stage, I miss live music so much. That's like what my wife and I did. Like, some people would leave their kids with grandma to go for a dinner and a movie. We would leave for leave them for shows. Not that we're leaving our kids all the time, but on the occasional outing, that's what we would go do.
Yeah, for sure.
Man. Anyway, sorry, not to get doom and gloom. I miss live music so bad.
I just didn't, I kind of consider myself a little bit of like a shut in and like introverted. And then like, I'm freaking out. Like, I want to get out of my goddamn house, man. like I'm ready to do anything. Like, do you name it? I don't know, man. It's crazy, but yeah, as far as gear wise, I think that brings us pretty current. It's those two cabs, the Dookie modded Super Lead, and and then a buddy of mine, Josh, here in Gainesville, built amps, and he built me like an amp that's his, like, he's trying to get like his amp company off the ground, and it's like a Marshall voiced kind of 800, but with more a better EQ section that I've been using for a little while. I had just got it out that from last show that we played actually in Maine, and I got it shipped to me, and I was like, sweet, and I played it for the show. I was like, this is awesome. Now it's going in storage. But yeah,
what's the name of his company?
It's called Josh, but spelled with a G. Amplifiers. Yeah.
So I would definitely call it Gosh if I saw it.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
I mean, I think it started off as being Gauche, and then everyone was like, Gosh, and then he's like, well, my name's Josh, and then he's like, it's Josh, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, there's like this whole. We had like a back and forth where it's like trying to come up with names, and then it was like, Hellspawn. You just come up with like the craziest names. You're like the Face Ripper, the Hellspawn. Yeah, and then it's just like, I don't know. Why don't you just call it Josh? And he's like, well, it's already called Go. I'm just gonna call it Josh with a G. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah. He's
sure,
like,
sure.
I don't know what else to do.
I mean, I've gone through this a lot. I help different companies out with things here and there, and it's like, okay, time to name the pedal, or time to name the company, or whatever. And it's like, what's not used already? Like, it's so hard to name pedals these days.
It's hard to name anything. I have a friend, Jason, and that's his job. He names things.
Wow.
Yeah, he works.
I didn't know that was a specific job.
There are people that work for agencies that their whole job is to like come up with, a name for something, like a razor, like anything, it's crazy. And he's really good at it. He just like kind of spits them out. But when it came to I even asked him for some amp names, and it just became like this whole real hard list of, it can get ridiculous pretty quick. And then it just ended up being Josh with a G.
All right.
But yeah, naming things is very hard.
It is. I want to talk to you about the Dookie amp a little bit.
Okay.
I've always heard about the Dookie modded Marshalls, but I don't actually know what the mod is. I haven't dug into it.
So I think there are two different mods. One of them, I can't remember. One's called like the Crunch mod, and then the other one's the Dookie mod. And the Dookie mod is like the higher gain mod of those two amps. And they were done by, I think it was LA Sound Design, like back in the 90s, when they were working on that Dookie record. And I can't remember, was it like Rob Cavallo or someone who was producing that, had that amp, and that just became like the main sound. But it basically just adds, it redoes the EQ section, adds more gain, and then I think there's like an effects loop added to it. But
oh, cool.
Yeah, I've never used an effects loop. I know they're there. I know what they're for. I've just never used it.
They're they're an interesting thing. A lot of people, especially in like the higher gain chugga metal world, really, they use them like religiously.
Yeah.
I have found that unless they're done and I don't know that much about electronics, so bear with me, everyone. But unless they're done just right, they tend to have they impart this weird whooshing 80s sound to everything, to your modulation especially, that isn't really there if you run it in the front of an amp. And so I don't tend to like it very often. That said, I know the listeners are going to get tired of this, but my Benson Vincent,
you and the Bensons, man.
I know, but it's the best. You got to try one sometime.
I'd love to.
I love the effects loop on that because it's not really an effects loop. It's just in between the two amplifiers. So it's still effectively running in the front of the cleaner amp. It's just sandwiched in between. So I really like how that works. It doesn't give it that, as Chris likes to say, the Top Gun sound. I think people know what I mean.
Yes. That would be the whooshing you referred to earlier.
Yes, exactly. It's hard to describe. That's the best word I can use to describe it. It's just
Well, it doesn't sound nearly as bad when you refer to it as the Top Gun noise.
That makes it sound cooler than it is,
some
right?
People are like, I gotta get an effects loop.
Yeah, I gotta have the Top Gun sound. Why wouldn't I want that? Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah, there's hordes of people taking their vintage amps to get effects loops put into them right now just because of that.
Exactly. They're just all like, we have to have it. Their text like, what do you mean Top Gun sound? What are you talking about?
Just listen to me. He said it was there.
This guy on the internet said so, and he knows. Well, I don't know what he knows, but he
said
talks
it would
to
make
people
a
that know
whooshing noise.
I do sometimes wonder, because there's lots of people that listen to this, and I'm like, I sometimes get in my head, I'm like weirdly responsible in some ways for putting information out there, but I'm just some dumb guy. I've never toured. I don't work on amps. I don't make pedals. I just talk to people that do. So, take my words with a grain of salt, kids. I'm just some dingus in a shed in Oregon. It could be anybody. Anyway. Well, we talked a lot about the amps. It's interesting when I ask people to go through their rigs, they tend to focus either on the guitars or on the amps. Nobody really focuses on the evolution of the pedal board because that changes so much. So you couldn't possibly remember everything. But I am curious what your guitars looked like kind of following that same journey.
Okay, so guitars, it started out with that Les Paul Studio that I mentioned. And that was really my main guitar from the start up until about 2005. And I got my gold top. And I refer to it as my gold top. Because it is my gold top, and I've played it every single day since the day I've got it. It's a 2005 57 reissue, and everyone who sees it thinks it's like a real 57 because it has been played thousands and thousands of shows, at thousands and thousands of shows, and it's just really beat up, and it sounds really good, and I love it. And a funny story about that is I bought that guitar without even playing it. I got back from a tour, had made a little bit of money from it, and was like, I'm going to buy a gold top. I always wanted one. And I was at home for maybe a couple days and maybe had smoked a little too much marijuana. And a musician's friend catalog showed up at my house, and I was like, oh, and I was flipping through it, and it was like, call our Gibson Select line and talk to an expert. And I was like, well, maybe I will. And, so I called and I talked to this guy, and he said they had 3 of them, and I told him to pick the one he liked the best and send it to me. And I bought it off Musician's Friend. Why
not? Why wouldn't that work?
Yeah. And I was like,
you're
cool.
the Gibson expert, right?
Yeah. So he's like, this one's it. And I was like, man, I don't know anything about it. Sounds great. And then, 2 days later, it showed up at my house, and I was like so freaked out because it cost so much money. and I was like scared to like ding it or, scratch it in any way that, like we went shortly after that to go record with Jay Robbins in Baltimore, and it was like, sitting in the studio, and it was time for me to like go like track some stuff, and he's like, and I just grabbed my Les Paul Studio, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "You just go play that guitar." And I was like, "Oh man, I don't know." And then from then on, it was like my main guitar. So those were like pretty much the two in constant rotation for a bit, and then I had like a G&L that I had for a little while, which was like the blues. Was it called the Blues Boy? That has the two humbuckers and the F hole.
Yeah,
I think it's called the Blues Boy.
Yep.
Had one of those for a bit. I sold that about 10 years ago, and I really regret it because it was really cool. But yeah, I always have that like, I'm going to find it. Every time I sell something, I'm like, I'm going to find it, and then I can never find it. And I had that for a little bit, and then so it's always been the Gold Top, and then I got a Les Paul custom that I've had for I don't know how long. It's in like an early 80s one. I think it's in 1981. And those are like my two main touring guitars now. What's that?
I have one of those.
You do?
From 1981. Yes. Yes.
It's also black. Yours? Well, I have
mine is white.
I have a white one from 1982.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have the 1981 black one. And then I had a 1980 Silver Burst, which I sold. And that's another one where I'm like, I'm going to get it back. And then I know who has it. And I talked to him recently, and he's like, no. He's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. I wouldn't either.
It's kind of funny that we're bringing this up right now, or that you're bringing this up right now, because this was just a discussion point in my Facebook group recently, because the Adam Jones 79 Silverburst just came out.
Oh, and then like everyone woke up and thought their Silverbursts were worth $15,000.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that will be like commonly known as like the Adam Jones phenomenon, where everyone's like, "Well, I got one of those."
Yeah, I was like 15 grand, 12, 13, but even then, like my 81, my white one, I don't think it's had anything to do with Adam Jones. It's just the market in general. It's worth about double what I paid for it, and I only got it like 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago. And I paid fair market price at the time. So I'm like, I'm not sure what's going on. Why is this guitar $4,500 to $4,800?
Yeah,
all of a sudden,
it's crazy.
It's weird.
Yeah, because like, man, like 4 or 5 years ago, you could buy like late 70s, early 80s Les Paul Customs all day long on Reverb for $2,000.
Exactly. I think I paid 21 or 22 for mine, somewhere in that ballpark.
Did you buy it off Reverb?
I did not. I got it from a local store.
Okay. Because I sold one, and I'm trying to find it.
No, I did not buy it off of Reverb. But I don't know where this one came from, because they obviously got it used.
Plastic plug in between the volume knobs for the rhythm and treble pickups.
It does not.
Okay, then it's not mine. Don't want it.
Okay. Well, good, because I'm not selling it. So
great.
I did accidentally. Yes, we had this conversation. We got it sorted out. I did accidentally. I found out like a year after I bought it. But I think I've told this on the podcast before, but I accidentally bought it out from under one of the Mastodon guys. Now I forget which one. If it was Brent or I don't remember now. But
Brent or Bill,
I accidentally bought it out from one. Yeah, it was Bill. It was Bill, actually, now that I think about it. I'm picturing the text message thread in my head. And yeah, that's the guy Hank from Old Town here in Portland. He sent me, he's like, oh, by the way, I never sent you this. And it was a picture of me holding the guitar, and it was a screenshot of a thread from Bill to him. Like, do you still have this guitar? And it's like me making this really ridiculous face.
That's
and
funny.
he's like, no, that moron in the picture that you sent has purchased that already. So anyway, sorry, Bill. I hope to get you on the show someday. Apologize to your face. Anyway, all that to say is I think there is some magic in that late 70s, early 80s custom shop, because almost everybody I talk to that owns one really loves them. And you have multiple from that era.
Yeah, and they're all fantastic. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but I've had from 78 to 83. And they've all been really good. But I'm still searching for that, like, I don't know if you have the quest for the like Les Paul Custom with your birthday serial number.
I have a quest for a guitar from my birth year, but I feel a little bit limited in my options, at least for things that I would want.
Okay. When is your birth year?
88.
Okay, so it's like a Kramer Beretta or something that you're looking for.
Yeah, well, I mean, I am, but I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm actually looking for like an HM Strat. That's probably about the coolest thing I can get from my birth year. I don't know. I'll have to ask around. I haven't put that much thought into it.
Good for you. I've put way too much time and effort into finding the Les Paul Custom. Color doesn't matter as long as it's not like the orange, red, yellow burst. But yeah, for the birthday serial number. But,
and when is your birthday?
It is May 14th, 1980. So I think I have the serial number would be in Gibson speak would be 81340 would be the first five that it needed to be like the day and year of production. But I could be wrong. I could be off by like a day or two. But I haven't even been able to find anything close. The closest I have is that 81 Black Les Paul that is like a year and a month or something like that.
Well, we're putting it out in the universe right now.
That's right.
You never know.
That's right.
We're putting those vibes out.
Putting the vibes out. And all the guitars that I ever sold that I want back, if you have them, get in touch with me because I want them.
James wants his guitars back, everyone.
Just since we're putting it out there, putting the vibe out there, I want that back.
I can relate. I've only sold one guitar or traded one guitar, and I want it back. So
what was that one?
It was a short scale weirdo Japanese guitar. I don't know if it was a Tokai or I don't know what factory it actually came out of, but it had a huge headstock on it, like a P bass, and it was called a Marquis. It had 4 pickups. They were all microphonic, and it had this wonderful neck on it. And I loved that guitar. It was just a little thrashy, trashy, like garage rock machine. But I fell in love with my what is now my 65 Melody Maker, and I still really love that guitar. It's a very special guitar to me. It plays awesome and is really inspirational. But I keep kicking myself because I partially traded that Marquis for it when I should have just like ponied up the like $250 or whatever they gave me. I was like just trying to like be somewhat responsible and be like, I traded this guitar and trying to be a responsible adult. And now I'm just like, I should have just ponied up the extra couple $100 and had both guitars, because now I really missed that thing, and it's not an easy one to find. Those Japanese ones can be very hit or miss.
Yeah, the guy from The Kills probably bought them all.
Yeah, exactly. Get at me. I mean, it did end up on Reverb. I know it ended up on Reverb because I can find a picture of it, and it's got this very specific ding in it from me playing it, and the angle of it, the angle they took the picture at, you can see the ding. I'm like, that's my guitar.
That's crazy.
Where did it go? Yeah, it's
that like white
somewhere.
Les Paul that I was like kind of like interrogating you over. I like got on a crazy tangent. I had this guitar. I had it for like maybe 8 months, and I was like, oh, I don't really need it. I'm gonna sell it. My wife was like, don't sell a guitar. You're gonna regret it. And I was like, no, just a guitar. I'll find another one. Sold it. Ended up selling it on Reverb to Chicago Music Exchange. So they had it, and I saw it go up for sale again, and it was like way more than I sold it for. And I was like, oh, of course. So I reached out and was like, hey man, like, I don't know who's checking these messages, but that was my guitar. I sold it to you guys. I'd like to buy it back. And they're like, okay, cool. So they're like, all right, we can make a deal with you. And I was like, all right, sweet. Maybe they'll, they're going to tack on something because they had to get it in house, inspect it, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think they had it listed for like $3,800. I sold it for $22,000. And they told me they would ship it to me for free. I was like, wait, so you want me to give you $1,600 more to just get my guitar back? I was like, this is like some weird bizarro pawn shop. But I know they were just trying to run a business. But, and then, so it sold, because obviously I wasn't going to just freely give somebody $1,600. And then I like tracked it on like gear forums to Houston.
Wow.
And then I and then so I saw someone like bought it off Chicago Music off Reverb from Chicago Music Exchange. It made it to Houston. They posted about it on the Les Paul forum. And then I like signed up for an account there, like sent the person a message, and like they hadn't had a message on there in like years. So I don't know what happened to the guitar. I tracked it that far, and it's gone. I still have like Houston Craigslist, saved in my Craigslist searches for when I'm looking for stuff.
I'm really, really happy to talk to people like you who are just like me. And I get to show these to my wife and be like, look, it's not just me. Okay. It's not just me and my friends on the internet. There's real musicians that are like this too. Okay.
It's really bad. Like it's just like gotten to the point where every day, something shows up and my wife is just like, here, there's no more questions anymore. It's like, what's that? It's just like, here's a box.
Yes.
I was like, oh, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. I come back from the post office.
I will be in the other room.
I'll be in here for a little while, maybe the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. My son, he stopped asking what it is when I bring in a approximately pedal-sized box from the post office. He's now like, what pedal is that? Like he didn't exactly. He's like, and he wants to see it, which is a good. I'm like, yeah, this one's pink. It's got to be better because it's sparkle pink. It must sound better tonally. Oh man, yeah, that was a realization. My wife has sat in on a few podcasts that I've done in person, and she leaves. And it's like when it's somebody she's a fan of, like Dave or Brian, who I mentioned earlier, And she comes away. She's like, they're just like you. They're just as big of nerds about this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it's because it's wonderful. It's so wonderful.
It is pretty wonderful.
It is. It's magic devices.
It's true. Where were we? Oh, guitars.
Oh yeah, sure. Guitars and stuff. So Les Paul Custom.
That's where we
yeah.
Les Paul Custom. So it's been like. And then there's like a few tellies that have kind of like found their way in there every once in a while. But yeah, mainly just Les Pauls. Les Paul standards or customs seems to be where I fit in sonically with what's going on.
I'm very curious about your Telecasters though. What are the odds? Because we have some crossover with our taste here, and I'm gonna just throw it out there and see if this is accurate. The Telecasters that have snuck in, have they had wide range humbuckers in them?
One of them, yes.
I had a feeling.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Okay, that was a Nash that Britain. I don't know if you're familiar with the Nash guitars. Seems most people are these days. Yeah, I got on a little tangent where I was like, hey, I need one of these guitars. And he made me a black double bound, like deluxe that had the two Lawler wide range humbuckers in it. And it was fantastic. I actually got it on that tour with Green Day. That's when it came in, and I played it for a little while. And now that guitar belongs to Frank Iero.
Oh, well, that worked out. Oh wait, I've seen this
Yes.
guitar before.
Yeah.
Frank was in town and we were nerding out, and that was one of them. I didn't know it was yours. Maybe he told me and I forgot.
That was mine. Yes.
I probably forgot because I'm not that smart. But that's crazy.
Yeah. I have to like stop showing him stuff because like I'll be like, "Hey, I got this," and he's like, "I want it." I'm like, "Too bad, man. Like, go get one." It's like, I've learned my lesson. Like, leave me alone. But we have like him and I actually have like a funny thing where we send each other like reverb links back and forth all day, where it's just like, check out this guitar, check out this guitar, check out this guitar, and then every once in a while one of us is just like holding it. And you're like, ha ha.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Well, good. I mean,
but yeah, and
it's
then,
good to know that I'm not the only one that does that with him. That's wonderful.
Yes. And then other tellies, I have another Nash that is like a gold top that has a mahogany top or mahogany body with a maple top. That's a gold top finish with binding and like block inlays that has P90s in it. Kind of looks like a 56 gold top that Britain made me. I have another one that is just like that but with humbuckers. And then my favorite telly that I have is I have two other Nashes too. I have like an army green telly that he made me, and I also have a 12-string Telecaster that he made me.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, which was like, I was just feeling weird, and it's like I knew lockdown was coming. It's like, I know that I'm gonna want to have this. And then my favorite telly that I have, there's like a weird story behind it, but it's Fender Custom Shop 68 Esquire. And I guess the story behind it was like when they did that like custom shop Mike Campbell telly. I guess they were going to do a Tom Petty one too. And from the story, I guess this is the prototype of that. And that, I really love it. Like it kind of makes sense. You can kind of, I've matched it up to pictures of his like 68 Esquire, and it's spot on.
Wow.
So it seems like it holds some truth. And I guess it came from, well, not I guess, but it came from the like former director of the custom shop. So I guess that has some truth to it, but I guess it never made it into production, and it could be the only one.
That's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie.
It is pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then other than that, I mean, like I have an old like 60 Strat. I have a Jazzmaster. I have like a Squier Venus, which I think is really cool.
What's that? I don't know what that is.
It's like, okay, so the Squier Venus was like a collaboration between Courtney Love and the Custom Shop, and they made this like signature guitar for her. And then, it's Courtney Love and she's crazy. And then, so it was like a mishmash of like a Rickenbacker scale neck and then like this weird oblong body. And then like they only made them for like a year, and then it came back the following year as part of that like Squier Vista series, which is where the like Supersonic and those kind of weird guitars came from.
Right.
Yeah, so I've kind of always wanted one of those for a while, and then my wife bought me a black one, which I had never seen before, for my 40th birthday this year.
I'm Googling this right now because I want to see it. Oh, that is cool.
I will. Oh, you look at you. You're multitasking.
I am.
It's cool.
I
right?
don't usually do that, but I was like, I can't picture this in my head at all, and so I had to. That is fun. That's cool looking.
Yeah, it's a weird one, and it's like shorty scale, so it's pretty fun to like mess around on. And I'm trying to think of any other Fender realm things I have. I think that's pretty much it, and then the rest are just in the Gibson area of things. Oh, and I have a couple Rickenbackers, and I have a Roni.
You have a Roni?
And I do. Funny story about my Paul Roni guitar.
I don't talk to people that have Ronis very often, so this just perked my ears right up.
I have one, and it is a prototype that was supposed to be a James Bowman signature model, and it's called a Splodinator.
I love that name. I don't remember this guitar, though.
It kind of looks like a weird, like Explorer.
Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, I do remember this guitar. Probably just blew my mic up by yelling into it. Hope your ears are okay.
Oh, my God. Yeah, no, I'm good. I think the dude, I can't remember his name. It might be Eli. He plays in that band Walk the Moon. Mm-hmm. I think he has one.
Okay. Yes, I have seen this before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But mine's cool. It's black with silver sides. It's pretty cool. I like it.
What pickups are in there?
Well, he put, I can't remember what the pickups were that were in it, and then we kind of got into like a little tiff because I told him I was going to change them. And then he was like, well, what are you putting in there? And I was like, I'm just going to put, like what I run stock and everything, which are Seymour Duncan Antiquities. And he kind of like scoffed at me. And I was like, okay, whatever, man. And then, yeah, so that's what's in it now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Oceana is... It's up there for like the guitar I play the most. I play it a lot.
They're cool. They're cool guitars. I actually went to his like old shop that he was like sharing with the Cower guitar builder guy, like outside of Sacramento, and went and hung out there for a while and saw how that whole setup. That shop is like insanely impressive. It was real cool. But yeah, so I have one of those. I have. I don't even know. Too many.
No, just enough. Just
enough. Yeah.
You almost have enough. You'll need one more. Just one more.
There's constantly, it's like, ooh, I need that. There's, I think that's pretty much it for the main guitars that I've played over the years. And the pedal board has been, oh boy. Are we getting into the pedal board?
I mean, why not? I mean, this has been the most gear-focused episode I've done in a very long time. Like, usually we're...
Really?
Yeah, usually we're off into, like, aliens or something by now. It's just...
We can talk about that stuff, too.
We can. Let's get into the...
pedal board is...
Yeah, let's do current pedal board. How about that?
Okay. Well, I like I said, I haven't seen it in a while. But it is... what is it? A Wazacraft TU3 or TU2, whichever one it is, because it's black, and that's cool. Mm-hmm. It's black with like the blue lights. And then there is a KTR. There's a couple Smart People factory pedals on there. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I'm not.
They made pedals back in the early 2000s, and they've probably not made them for the past 10 years. But they made some of my favorites, and there's one on there that's like a boost pedal that's called the Ego Boost. That's been like a mainstay for a long time on my pedal board. And then there's like a Big Muff clone that's called the Red Threat. And then a tremolo pedal of theirs that is called the Caliquake. Those three. And then there's an Ibanez 89 delay. There's a Timeline. There is an Afterneath, a Ghost Echo. An EVH Phase 90. And... a volume pedal.
All right. Right on. That is, I'm
Yeah.
just impressed by your memory overall on this. Like this is very not something I could do. I'm always having to be like, I don't know. Even like I know all this stuff, but if somebody was like, what's your rig look like? I'd be like, I gotta go look at it. I'll be back in 5 minutes. I don't know. All right. Sorry, podcast folks. Just so you know, so you're aware, in case this is not an easy edit to make, we got cut off there. So we're back. We have returned.
It happened. It was my fault.
Or was it mine?
Apparently, I shouldn't have my mom on my favorite list, I guess, right?
That's right. You can't have your mother on your favorite list. What?
Yeah.
My mom's in my favorites too.
That.
I love my mom.
I hope so.
Anyways, where were we? Well, we were getting pretty close to the end, but I have a couple.
All right.
I have a couple of the classic questions I need to ask you. But before we do that, we kind of just glossed over your pedal building and like what those are. We didn't really. We said, yeah, I build pedals now and I sell them and stuff, and then it was like, I'll get back to that later, and we never did. So now is a good time. Let's talk about what you're making. What are you making?
Cool. So I started just kind of like messing around, and I was like, well, I like that pedal, so let me build one. So and then it just kind of went from there. So it's like I started with like a big muff circuit, which was like the green Russian version of the big muff is my favorite. So I started making some of those, and then I moved to like the rat circuit, which I thought was pretty cool. And I started making kind of a version of that has, I think it has like a better EQ sweep for my needs anyway. And just would kind of start messing around with just different, my kind of version of, different circuits. And as I started making them and they were working and sounding good, I decided I would try to sell some of them. So I started a pedal business and I called it Bowman Audio Endeavors. I've just been working towards getting a couple of my circuit designs out. I had one that I started with, which was like a boost design that I was trying to add like a tone, like a switchable tone, like EQ sweep to, where you could like have it turned off, like an actual like pot that you can click off to have just an overall, boost setting, like up to like, say 20 dB of boost. And then I was like, it would be awesome if you could like click the tone circuit in and have it like sweepable. So like, if you're sweeping from like 6 o'clock to noon, it would be like the bass frequencies that you could dial in. And then from, all the way back down around to 6, it would be treble frequencies. And I was having a real hard time kind of figuring that out. And luckily I was introduced to the Adventure Audio people. Yeah. And they are helping me figure that out. So that should be coming soon. And that is the hot potato pedal. Because it's called a hot potato. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Why not? I like it.
it. I have, so that's coming out. That's like an original design. And I have, I made a version of my Centaur, which I measured all of the components on the back of the board through the, because there's no epoxy on the back of the board.
Right.
And took some measurements of the components there, and then just kind of some of them that I couldn't guess, couldn't figure out. I just kind of guessed the range of the value of the capacitors or resistors, and I made a version of that, and I just called it the Bowman, which I'm currently making those. That's what my night has consisted of recently. And just trying to build things that I like. I hate to say clones of things, but inspired versions of, and then just waiting for, my designs to come out, and then I'll probably stop building the clones of things. finishing up. What else did I have? Like a take on like the Super Hard On. That's kind of coming out soon. And yeah, just trying to like kind of stay busy with that, and then come up with ideas for things. And then also, when I, get like the itch to be like, man, I should kind of like mess with a version of that and see what I come up with, and then just seeing what happens from there.
Totally. Well, you jumped in quick. You had a bunch of stuff for just being a 2020 startup. That's a bunch of models out in one go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of hours in the day. So yeah, it was just more so like a way to keep busy and not go crazy. So yeah, I'm up till 3-4 in the morning sometimes, and then up at 6:30 with the kid, trying to make stuff, and then some of those ones for the late night I'll go back to test them. I'm like, this doesn't work for obvious reasons. I was probably asleep. But yeah, just trying to like, I don't know, I'm not super knowledgeable on a lot of that electronic stuff, but just trying to learn as I go, and just trying to build things that I like and I think other people will like. And then as you do learn about like the way capacitors and resistors affect like frequency, like tone frequencies in circuits, just kind of tweaking those to my liking, and then just kind of putting them out there,
Very cool.
Yeah. And then, yeah, just trying to learn as much as I can to come up with fresh ideas of my own. And thankfully those Adventure Audio folks are really nice and really, really a lot smarter than me when it comes to those things. So they've been a great help.
Yeah, Christian and the crew over there, they're awesome. I've done 3 projects with them, and it's funny that they're coming back up in the conversation again, because on Halloween, I've talked about this a little bit on the podcast, but sometimes I'll just plug in a bunch of effects and just kind of like zone out and see where it takes me. But I never really record it or do anything with it. I just use it as a weird form of meditation or whatever. But this time I actually decided, I'm like, well, I'm going to record this and see what happens. And I was using the last project that we did together, which was the Demogorgon V3, which is a fuzz, a reverb, and a tremolo all mashed together, and it's really crazy. But it's just funny because like I was like, I haven't played this pedal in a long time, and then here we are talking about them again. So great folks over there, great stuff.
Yeah, they're super nice, super smart, and like a great resource to have kind of at my disposal when it fits into their schedule and I pay them.
Well, there's that. Yes.
Yeah, of course. It's not free, people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, they are making some great stuff as well. And but yeah, I didn't even know that was like a thing. I thought I just had to like sit in my room and like melt things with like, voltages going to transistors and them catching on fire and setting off my smoke alarms and stuff. And I didn't realize that I could, do that for a little while and then get frustrated and be like, help. And that they could help. Yeah. So that's been nice.
That's awesome.
But yeah, so just trying to keep busy with that, and then hopefully have more and more stuff just kind of coming out that will eventually just be focused on my designs,
Where can people find this stuff?
I have a website. It is bowmanaudioendeavors.com. And yeah, there will be stuff popping up there randomly. Also trying to just like build one-offs and do like raffles for things, and then donate the proceeds of that to charity, which I've been doing pretty much all year since I've been at home, and been able to donate a pretty good amount of money to a lot of good causes.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. I'm all about that kind of stuff. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's cool, pay a couple bucks, get entered into a raffle, hopefully a couple hundred people enter, and then, we were able to, I think so far I've been able to donate like $7,000. So
that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, I've done a couple things this year myself, and it's been really encouraging to see the response. It makes me feel good about humanity.
Yeah.
So,
And that's important. Like, things are crazy right now. And I mean, we haven't even gotten on the topic that we're speaking on election day. And, you know, yeah.
oh, we are?
So,
Oh,
and,
I wasn't aware. I didn't know.
oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's good to have like some faith in humanity and be able to, see the good when it's pretty much all seems bad these days,
Yeah, I think, I really think that the internet has a way of doing that. I mean, it's natural human tendency to focus on the bad. Like, if somebody
sure.
tells you that your tone sucks, you might think about that all day long versus the 20 people that told you it sounded awesome. You're like, oh, why did that guy think my tone sucked? I don't,
you had to figure out a way to work gear back into this, didn't you?
I had to. But I mean, for real, like people, it's just what we do. I don't know why. I don't know if it's like a survival instinct where it's like, yeah, positivity is great, but we need to focus on that wolf that's coming to eat us, or whatever. I don't know what it is, but we definitely have a tendency to focus on the negative when really, really, if you look at it objectively, there is a lot of good going on as well. And a lot of good has come out of 2020 despite all the craziness. So, like things like you mentioned, like the charitable giving that I've seen from people has been like off the charts, and that's always really encouraging.
Yeah, for sure. I think that just the pure like vial of the negative has just been like, what has made it seem so terrible. It's like, oh my God, it just seems like unreal,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why it seems so like prevalent and more people are like focused on it, because it's like, I don't know. It is just much more in your face. The internet isn't always a good thing.
No.
Yeah.
It's only good for podcasts. That's all it's good for.
That's right. Subscribe now.
Subscribe, like, comment, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff. Whatever. If you like it, I hope you enjoy the podcast. Anyway, well, let's get into these classic questions. We can wrap this section up and we can get into some bonus content for the patrons. What do you say?
Cool. Sounds good.
All right. So with that in mind, what we were just talking about, this is the point in the show where I like to let people put up a billboard. They can say whatever they want to say. If there's something you want to get off your chest for a few thousand people, you can say it at this point, and the floor is yours, sir.
Oh, yeah, no, I got nothing no agenda to push here or anything. Yeah, no, I don't really have anything to add. If you want to go check out the pedals I'm building, do that. That's great.
Okay.
If not, check out other pedals and other things that people are building. That's great too. Yeah. Cool.
That works. You never know. Some people like to take that ball and run deep into the woods, and some people just do that, which is totally fine. That's why I like to do that for people. Anyway, all right, here we go. Last couple questions. Number 1, what is your favorite Boss pedal?
I
know it can be tough.
TU3.
The TU3, that is a popular option. A lot of people love that TU3.
It's good. It's a really reliable, accurate tuner. So I think that has to be my favorite.
There you go. The TU3.
Or two, they're both equally good. The one has, the little brighter lights, and it does the little sweepy thing, which is fun. But yeah.
All right. TU3. That might be one of the most popular answers, actually.
I'm happy to hear that.
All right. So this is where we get controversial. This is where people get really upset. And, it's just something we have to deal with. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
My favorite kind of pizza. Like, are you talking like a style of pizza or like your toppings?
Be as specific as you want to be. Can be down to the pizzeria and a very specific one they make.
So I think as like a blank general statement, I think just like a good cheese slice from a good place that makes pizza that isn't Chicago style is good. So like New York, Detroit, any of those other like fantastic pizza places, just a good cheese slice. I don't really like Chicago style pizza. I just think there's too much cheese in it. And yeah, I would just have to say a good classic cheese slice.
Yeah. I used to not understand that. And then I went to New York and now I understand. I was very skeptical. I'm like, how can a cheese slice be better than something with sausage and mushrooms and all this other delicious stuff? And now I understand. Sometimes that simple cheese slice,
and
hits the spot.
The more stuff you put on it, it starts to get soggy, and then you end up, I don't know. You want like the crispy crust, like the tang of the sauce, nice gooey cheese, and a good crust, and that's pretty much all you need. Anything else is just like, a bonus if you happen to get it from like a place that sells slices and it was on where the cut line, and you're like, oh, I got like a half a piece on olive.
Right.
Like, that's a bonus.
It's a little extra.
Yeah. You're like, oh, there's a little salty piece over here. That's great.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cheese slice. All right. I'm into it. That sounds great.
I'm real boring. I got a tuner and a cheese slice going so far. You're going to delete this episode as soon as I hang up.
Yeah. Oh, we're just going to, I don't know when this one's going to come out. Yeah, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Got to put that on the back burner for a minute.
Yeah, there's a lot of other episodes in front of it, so I think it might be a year or 4. No, actually I don't. Might be the next episode. So thank you. Thank you for coming on. All right, everybody. Well, let's wrap this thing up. What do you say?
That was the big controversial question.
Yeah.
Was the pizza?
It gets hot. It gets heated sometimes.
Really? Because people bring up like Hawaiian, and then there's like the fruit on the pizza thing.
Yeah,
it's like that.
And I have to hang up. Just immediately, I just hang up.
You don't like? Okay, so you don't like pineapple on pizza?
I don't like pineapple.
You don't like pineapple?
I don't like pineapple. I don't like it.
Oh man.
I don't know. I've tried it. It's one of those things. It's not like I am a very open food person. I will try things that I have previously not liked, because there's been lots of things over my life that I didn't really like, and then I eventually came to love them. Sauerkraut being one. I used to not like sauerkraut. Now I love sauerkraut.
Pineapples, I love pineapple. It's one of my favorite fruit. You can't eat a lot of it because, like, for some odd reason, it seems like if you eat a lot of it, it will like start to burn your mouth. Like, it's so acidic.
I think it actually eats your flesh a little bit, and I'm not just saying that. I think that's a real thing.
Well, that's even better. I think it's delicious. I think you should maybe take baby steps towards trying to eat pineapple.
I have. I've tried it. I try it a couple times a year.
Try again.
I'm going to. I'm going to try it. And here's how I was told. I actually just had Rob Chapman, who you may be familiar with from YouTube World. He told me to try something where I take some pineapple, squeeze the juice out of it, and saute it with butter, rum, and I think paprika. I'll have to go back and listen to that part of the episode and make sure I got all the details right. But fry it up in a pan. And he said, try it that way. He said, I bet you'll like it. So I'm going to try that. No, and I will report back when I have tried that. But as of right now, I don't like the pineapple.
All right. Rob sounds like a real weird guy. I think you can just eat the pineapple, but I don't know.
I can't. Well, I mean, I can, but it's not.
Do you like pineapple juice?
Not really.
The juice is okay. So it's not the juice that's the problem. It's the actual, like, kind of stringy flesh of the pineapple.
Yeah, I'm not into it. Yeah, it's just the overall
if there was like pineapple sauce, would you like applesauce, like pineapple sauce? Would you dig it then?
I'd avoid it. The closest the closest I can get to pineapple is al pastor, but then I try not to eat the chunks. I just eat the meat.
Okay, Right on.
And so I've definitely had things where it was like marinated in pineapple juice, or the pineapple was associated in some way that I was okay with or enjoyed, but I just can't eat it. I don't know. I just don't like it. Yeah,
Right
I don't
on.
know. I'm trying though. I'm trying. I give it
That's
the
good.
old
At
college
least
try.
you're trying.
Yeah.
At least you're trying.
I would always, with any food on the planet, I would always rather like something than not like it. It's much more fun to like something than to not like it.
That's true.
So that's why I
true.
try things. That's why I try bugs and weird things. And yeah, my dad thinks I'm very strange, but whatever. Well, right on, man. Thanks so much for coming on. This was an enjoyable chat. I'm glad we got to do it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was a lot of fun.
Of course. All right, everybody. For James, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you didn't, I don't know why you're still listening at this point. It seems like a silly thing to do to yourself. But you probably did. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for sticking with me. And thank you for all the support over all these years. If you would like more of these conversations, you can go to Patreon. Patreon.com/ToneMob. There are over 100 extra episodes over there, usually extended interviews with guests. And yeah, there's going to be one with James too. So if you want to hear more of this conversation, you want to see where it led us, slide over there and check it out. Patreon.com/ToneMob. $5 a month gets you access to hundreds of extra episodes and new ones every week. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Tell your friends and all that good stuff. I'll talk to you next time. One last thing before we totally sign off here. I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.